Hi, welcome to my podcast, Becoming a Cut Flower Grower. I'm your host, Lydia, and I'm here to share my year of growing and selling cut flowers. I'll be giving you the lowdown on everything I'm doing and sharing all the highs and lows, the good times and the inevitable disasters, all in real time. Join me on my cut flower journey, starting right now. Hello and a very warm welcome to the latest episode. It's Friday the 5th of December 2025 and the good news is that there are only 16 days until the winter solstice, which is the shortest day, longest night. And after that point, which is the 21st of December, it is literally all bright lights and uphill from there. So that's very exciting. Now, it's been a really, really rainy week. We've had rain, I think, every single day. And I got very wet on my jobs this week. It's not been pleasant at all. So wet that you have to come home and take everything off on the bottom half and just put fresh on. And then, of course, there's drying of boots, gloves, cleaning of equipment. Yeah, it's all very, very messy. Now, thank you for joining me. I hope you're well and I hope you've had a good week. The hens have certainly had a great week. They've been having warm scrambled eggs or porridge for their breakfast in the morning. They love it. They're really very well feathered up this time of year, so their cold is not a problem. I had some lovely feedback from you from talking about the last couple of episodes that I've done. So thank you for your comments. It seems overwhelmingly that I will be carrying on doing 2 episodes a week, although somebody made a very useful suggestion. If I do drop down to 1, perhaps I could just make it longer, which is a brilliant idea. But I think judging by the number of comments that said keep doing 2, I think that's what I will be doing. So I have thought a bit more. In fact, I've thought of nothing else this week about my last episode when I talked about imports versus British flowers. And I have actually listened back to the episode quite a few times this week just to double check that I haven't said anything that's unkind or inappropriate or mean, because that's, well, I hope you know by now that's never my intention. But I've never really talked about actual people on the podcast. It's really just sort of me tinkering around with bits. And so I just felt like maybe I'd gone a little bit close to the mark. But I had a few comments and they just said, well, it's honest and that's what you think. And to date, touch wood, nobody has put a brick through my window. So I hope if anybody listening thinking, gosh, wow, that Lydia, she's really mean, that's really not the intention at all. And I think maybe if I got a bit too upset about it, part of it is because I feel very strongly about the chemicals on the imports. And also I really have to get to know more florists much better in 2026. I think if anything, there was an undercurrent that I picked up myself of frustration that I just don't understand the people that I'm trying so hard to sell my product to. And somebody told me a long, long time ago that when you point the finger at anyone or anything, you always have 3 fingers pointing back at yourself, because that's the shape your hand makes when you point at something. And I thought, well, maybe that episode reflects more on me than on anybody else, but I still stand by what I said about the chemicals on the flowers. So I started module 4 of my 6-figure flower farming course with Jenny Marks. The new modules land every Friday morning, so I was listening to that at 8:30 this morning, and this episode or this module is all about marketing, so lots and lots of information. It's a really huge module, so I want to make sure I get that finished by next week. It looks incredible. And I have finally got round to placing my super big rose order, well, big for me anyway, and that's gone off to the supplier and hopefully they will come before Christmas. And then the other thing I did was I made a collage of all the blooms. So I went through Google and got all these photographs of the blooms that I have on this list. And I've made a collage, which I've printed off as a PDF. And I'm going to show my wedding and event florist. In fact, I can show it to all the florists that I would love to work with. If there's any out there that will still put up with me, I'm going to show them this collage, which I've color coordinated. So there's all the pinks on the left, then it kind of goes into the pinky apricot and the blushes, and then the creams and the whites, and then slightly more over to the apricotty lemony, and then there's sort of lemony ones off to the right. So no battery acid yellow or anything super bright or anything that's going to upset the horses. It's very much designed for wedding and event florists, all the sort of pastel-y shades that on paper, they look absolutely stunning. So fingers crossed, I've made the right choices. So my original rose order that I did back in October has not arrived yet, which is a bit strange, but everybody's busy, so I guess they have to dig up the roses, their roots for everybody. So hopefully they'll arrive soon. Now, a couple of other things just to mention briefly. Thank you if you've subscribed to the show. So I suggest in the show notes that people subscribe if they like what they hear, so that they get notified when the latest episodes get uploaded. There's nothing cynical or monetization about it. I don't use the figures to make any money. This podcast is a passion project for me. I love doing it. It's one of my favorite things. And so the subscriber numbers are completely irrelevant, but I love that you have subscribed and that you get the episodes as soon as they come out. But that is all that we use them for. The royal we there, of course, is only me. Now, reviews, again, I don't need any reviews. I don't need them to prove to anybody else that they should advertise with me or sponsor me or anything like that. They're just helpful for other people. So if you ever have 30 seconds and you feel like leaving a review, then it's going to help people just like you. So that's always a really nice, helpful thing to do. And just a reminder that the podcast is ad-free and will always be ad-free, even if I end up doing it in a cardboard box on the street, because I can't stand adverts. They're just creeping into all these podcasts now. They drive me absolutely wild. And I'm listening when I'm gardening, so I have to stop, take my gloves off, get my phone out of my pocket, fast forward 30 seconds because I just refuse to listen to them. So you will never have to put up with that. Now, I have a question for you about the show notes. Do you ever read the show notes? I was thinking about this the other day. I always write the show notes every episode. And generally speaking, the first and the last paragraph are kind of the same. And then there's 2 paragraphs in the middle where I talk about what I talk about on the podcast. And then I always include links to documents or books or websites or courses or something that I mention in the episode. I nearly always forget to tell you that I have put the link in the show notes, but I do. And again, it's not affiliate marketing or anything like that. I'm not clever enough to work out how that works. So it is really just me saying to you, this is something that I'm talking about. So I did put some links in last Tuesday's episode when I talked about the imports, with some really interesting documents in there that if you have time, you could always have a read of those. Very interesting. But I was thinking the other day that I never read the show notes for any of the podcasts that I listen to regularly. I just download them, listen to them, and then delete them off the phone. But if I ever do go into the show notes, I'm always really disappointed if nobody has written anything, because I think I can't believe you couldn't be bothered to spend 5 minutes just writing something. It's weird if there's just nothing there at all. But I'd be interested to know if you ever do read the show notes. So the main bulk of what I wanted to talk about tonight was wreaths. And I wanted to share some information that I've learned about wreaths with you. Now, if you look at your Instagram at the moment, you cannot breathe for videos of wreaths. And it's a bit like I'm learning this now, because I'm following all these growers and florists and everything to do with cut flowers. You just, at certain times of the year, all you see is one particular thing. And I am very guilty of this, because I got so overexcited this summer with all the dahlias that I was just posting reel after reel of dahlias. And I'm sure people were like, God, I wish you would just stop. We get it. There are dahlias. And it's like that with wreaths now. And I'm pretty exhausted with wreaths, and I haven't even made mine yet. And I'm thinking, God, I don't even want to look at another wreath. And then I got to thinking, why do we even do wreaths? Where on earth does it even come from? So I asked my best friend, ChatGPT, for a little bit of history about it, because I was just curious about it, and I really didn't know, which just sounds really ignorant now that I don't know anything about this ritual that I've done every winter as an adult and not really know anything about it. And I thought, I'm going to share it with you tonight, because it's all about wreaths at the moment. So according to ChatGPT, the circle shape is indicating eternity, so no beginning or no end. And apparently it's one of our oldest symbols as a human race, the circle symbol, which I also didn't know. And it's a kind of a sign of protection as well. Now, the original wreaths came from 16th century Germany, and they were actually laid flat, and you had 4 candles symbolizing the 4 weeks of Advent, and you would light one candle once a week in the build up to the Christmas. So kind of like a countdown, an old-fashioned countdown, as opposed to having an Advent calendar. Most of which mine I have eaten already, because I was given it on the 1st and I didn't have any chocolate in the house, and I was looking at it thinking, don't do it, Lids, don't do it. And then of course that's fatal, isn't it? So after about 10 minutes I'd done most of it, and my mother gives me an Advent calendar every year. In fact, I give her an Advent calendar every year, and it's just a ritual we've had since I was a youngster. And we normally end up buying each other the same Advent calendar, so we could save a load of hassle and just buy one and keep it for ourselves. But we go through this ritual of buying an Advent calendar, wrapping it up, giving it to the other person, then we open it and both go, oh, we got the same one. And she spoke to me, well, I thanked her for the Advent calendar on, I think, the 2nd or something. And she said, I hope you haven't eaten all the chocolates already. And I was like, no, of course I haven't. But yeah, I have. So yeah, so the original one, anyway, going back to the original wreaths, were 16th century German, laid flat with these 4 pillar candles. And then they've kind of morphed into this modern door wreath via the Victorians, who wanted everything to look very, very pretty. And the modern wreath is a sort of 19th century idea, apparently, as a welcome, and also as a way of using up the trimmings from Christmas trees, which was a thing. And having seen how small the front doors are in a lot of 19th century cottages, I imagine that you had to take quite a lot of your tree off just in order to get it through your door. And then, of course, they would have done something with the offcuts, because they were very resourceful back in those days. Now, the symbolism about using evergreens on the wreaths is not just using up the trimmings from the Christmas tree, but a symbol of life in winter. And also, I was thinking when I was reading this, if you didn't use evergreens, you just have a circle of sticks. So I imagine there was, whoever came up with this idea originally was also prudently thinking, let's cut something that's alive rather than just using deciduous foliage, because half of it's just going to fall off or be dead, which is awful. And we use pine, fir and spruce, and also yew, which I'm not sure about yew. ChatGPT said yew is used to symbolize life after death, which is why you find yew trees in churchyards. But I don't know anybody that uses yew in their wreath, so not sure about that one. But the other foliage that we do commonly use, holly, which is supposed to protect against the evil spirits because of all the sharp edges, and the berries to signify life and warmth. There's ivy to signify resilience and endurance, and if you've ever tried to get ivy off a tree or a wall, you will understand why it's known for its endurance. Pine cones symbolizing fertility, fruit for abundance and health, cinnamon and cloves for wealth, because they used to be very, very expensive, and bells to drive away evil spirits, which is interesting because I like to put bells on my wreaths, not every year, some year. It really depends whether I can find the container that's got the bells in. So years ago, I bought a whole load of wreath making bits. I went through years of just doing these sort of very traditional foliage based wreaths, and then I thought, I'm going to mix it up a bit and buy all of these bits and pieces, dangly bits, to hang off my wreath. And I bought this lovely tub of bells, and some years I can find the tub and bells go on, and some years I just can't. Now, I don't know, I've got an idea in my head for how my wreaths are going to be this year. I've actually bought some 12-inch ring wreath frames, if you like, the rings, this year. Years ago, I made the mistake of buying 16-inch ones because I love everything big, and I thought, yes, this is amazing. And then my style of wreath making was also very big, and I didn't really have my technique refined. So starting with a 16-inch base, and then if you have all your foliage sticking out the side, you can end up with something that's like about 18 to 20 inches wide, which is absolutely mental. So most of those wreaths have just completely vanished. I don't know where they are. Sometimes I find one lurking in the greenhouse, but mostly that batch is gone. So I bought myself some 12-inch ones because I thought, if I want to, I could angle the foliage so it makes the wreath look bigger. But if I don't want to, they could just stay a manageable size. And I never normally do a moss base. I don't do a fern base. In fact, I don't ever do any kind of base. And I'm watching all these videos and everybody's putting a base on, and I'm not entirely sure why. I guess if you use a moss rather, then the stems have a bit of moisture. And I guess maybe it makes it easier to poke stuff into. I don't know. I've never had an issue with that. I normally just put Christmas tree foliage down as the kind of base and then build on top of that. So that's what I think I'm going to be doing with mine this year. The trend this year very much seems to be ribbons, like ribbons on everything, not just one, but like tons of ribbons. That seems to be the overwhelming trend this year. I'd love to know where these trends come from. And I'm mostly doing mine to give to clients, friends, and family. So my gardening clients that I look after, I normally make them a wreath every year, and I just do it as a gift because, to say thank you. And I try and harvest some foliage from their garden or some bits and pieces and add it into their wreaths. So they've actually got something that is from their own garden. And really, I have never made wreaths with an eye on profitability either. I used to take a fan heater and a light and go make them in my greenhouse and just spend ages doing it, really. Just listen to Christmas music and just relax and take my time, because I find them very therapeutic. I enjoy making them. But I guess this year I might do them with half an eye on the clock. Not that I'm really selling them, but just so that I know how long it takes me to do them. And I guess how long it takes me to forage for the foliage. Yeah, we'll see. I will definitely need to go and buy some offcuts from a garden centre or somewhere else that sells Christmas trees, or get those seconds trees that I told you about before that aren't quite good enough, that they're always lurking around the back of garden centres, that they're not the ones that come in really lopsided or something, and the garden centre can't sell them. They'll often sell them for cheap to people who make wreaths. So that's what I'm going to be doing, the wreath prep this weekend. I don't think I'm going to actually make them. I think I'll just prep everything this weekend. I'm a bit, I'm always late for everything, right? Because I tell you this all the time, and I am. And I am really quite late to the table about everything. But part of me is quite old-fashioned in a sense. I remember when I was a youngster, and I'm 45 now. So 30 years ago, I seem to remember that you could do things for Christmas really close to Christmas, and it felt so Christmassy. I remember buying Christmas presents the weekend before Christmas. You'd do your shop the weekend before or a couple of days before, and you had a wreath up maybe a week before or something like that. And nowadays it feels like Christmas kind of starts in November, and there's all this pressure. I've been talking to people, they've already got their trees up. And I'm thinking, but what's it going to, how it's going to be like some kind of desiccated coconut by the 25th of December, like, especially if your house is warm. I also wouldn't want to have to stare at it for like 5 or 6 weeks. I don't get it. I'm not knocking anybody that does that. I mean, I see pictures of people's trees up and I think, well, that's nice, but I just think I'm not ready for it. I like to do the seasonal things when it's seasonal. And I have very fond memories of everybody in my town when I was growing up out and about doing their Christmas present and their food present shopping the weekend before Christmas or a few days before Christmas. And you'd bump into everybody and you just see all your friends, and you might say, oh, let's go and get a glass of mulled wine or something. And it was like a real moment, in the same way that Easter is kind of a moment. But nowadays it just seems like it's just strung out forever, and the adverts drive me up the wall. And I just think it feels like we're being dictated to by places like the supermarkets and the big shops and everybody else that just wants you to spend interminably, like just like for huge extended periods of time, instead of just saying, just cook a meal, cook a roast dinner, exchange a couple of presents, and that's it, instead of it being this enormous hoo-ha that just won't end. I sound a bit like the Grinch, don't I? That's not never mind. It's not how I want to be excited about it, but for the week that it takes place, not since like the middle of November. It's too much. So that is happening this weekend. There's some more planting and transplanting to do. There's module 4 of my course to do. And also, we are definitely 100% making a new house for Lion, my beautiful cockerel, and his wife, Kiki, who are in need of a proper house now. So we're going to be doing that with some pallets and some bits of wood, and it's going to be a little bit of a Heath Robinson job, but we won't tell Lion that. He doesn't need to know, because it will serve the purpose, and then he'll have a lovely house, and it'll all be fine. And also some tulip planting, which definitely needs doing. So that's my plan for the weekend, and I hope that you have a wonderful weekend wherever you are and whatever you're doing. I hope you have a wonderful time, and I very much hope that you will come back and join me on Tuesday for the next episode of the podcast. All right, all the very best.